I just went to a bridal fair this weekend as a vendor, and it got me thinking about all of the ways that I have screwed up as a bridal fair vendor. And let's talk about it so you do not make the same mistakes that I have made. I'm a boudoir photographer, and I think no matter the genre that you are in, if you are involved in the wedding industry and you have any interest in going to a wedding expo, these are my tips and tricks on things to look for, questions to ask, and what to do. Because especially if you've never ever been to a wedding expo, they can be really, really intimidating. But I promise that they're not, and they're a really fantastic way to market your business. So, first off, if you're brand new going to a wedding expo that you have never been to before, you are going to want to ask the event hosts how many attendees they have had in the past. So, how many couples or individuals typically show up. You want to know this information. And you also want to know if you're going to be getting the email list. Most wedding expos have like permission baked into their ticket sales or their free tickets. So when people show up to attend the wedding expo, in return for all of the work that the wedding expo did for free, the attendees, the vendors that is, receive email so that we can market to the people who came. So you are going to want to get the email list from the hosts of the event. If you do receive that email list, I highly recommend sending out an email to those people and letting them know why they're going to receive emails, and then making it extremely easy for people to opt out and unsubscribe. Because even though there's always a clause or an explanation somewhere saying your email is going to be shared with the vendors, a lot of people don't read that, or they don't know that that's happening. And I think it's kind of spammy to not explain that. So I like to send out an email saying like, hey, you're receiving this email from me because you recently attended this wedding expo. If you're interested in self-love, boudoir, empowerment, I'm so happy you're here and I hope you will stay. If you're not, though, if none of that interests you, feel free to unsubscribe right here. And I make it really easy because I don't want anybody to be getting my emails that has no interest. That feels spammy. So get the email list, but let people know, hey, this is why I'm contacting you, because you attended X, Y, and Z. When it comes to the actual display of your booth, I highly recommend creating a tiered display. You want to have some visual height on your table. This is something that I did not do in the beginning, and I wish I could go back and amend that mistake. So learn from me, please. When I see tables with all of the like information just flat on the table, it's not inviting, it's not welcoming, and people who are walking by are not able to see what you're offering, so they're not going to come up to your table. Instead, if you have some tiered displays, it could be little shelves. I use just black boxes to create different height. They can see what you're offering then as they're walking through the center of the aisles, and they're a little more likely to come check out your table then because they know what you have. Whereas if they have no idea what you're offering and everything is just flat on the table, then they're a lot less likely to actually approach the table. It's like people are too nervous and shy to just approach anyone, especially when they have no idea what you're offering. So those tier displays, very, very important. Also, something that I did not do that I wish I would have done from the get-go was buying like tall vertical banners that have my name on it. I do that now, but I didn't have any kind of big sign to let people know who I was as they were walking by. So it really, I think, kept people away from my tables because they had no idea I was a boudoir photographer. So just make sure you have a banner or something large where people can see the name and go, oh, okay, I know that that person is a caterer. I know that that person is a wedding photographer. I know that person sells wedding dresses, what have you. And that it will kind of keep people who are totally not interested in what you're offering away from your table. And then it will invite the people who are interested to your table. And that's what we want. Also, use QR codes, but also have a physical way for people to sign up. So when I am talking about people signing up, most wedding vendors will have some kind of giveaway or deal where if you become what's called a hot lead, I will give you something kind of in return. Receiving that big email list from the hosts of the wedding expo, those are colder leads than the ones that will sign up right at your table. The people who come by your table and talk to you, those are very hot leads, and those are the ones that we really, really, really like. But to get those hot leads, we have to kind of offer something in exchange. In my case, maybe a waived session fee or some kind of maybe discount off of a catering package or additional goodies if they decide to book with you. Maybe they get extras. It could be whatever you want. But you need people to sign up for that in some way. And what I used to do is take a sheet of paper and put it on a clipboard and have people handwrite their names and their emails. No, bad call. Bad call. Oh, should have been rocking with the QR code from the get-go, but I didn't. So learn from me. The problem with having people handwrite is that you're not going to be able to read it. I promise you. I don't even know. 30% of the handwriting, you're going to be like, what does this say? I have no clue. And you're going to lose those leads because you can't send them an email because you have no idea what their email says. And that's really frustrating. Not to mention, you have to then go into whatever your email host is. Like I use MailChimp. I have to go into MailChimp and hand type out every single person who just signed up. And at this last wedding expo I went to, I had something like 60 leads who signed up. That is hours of work, typing out 60 emails and trying to figure out what they say. And I've tried to like Google people's names to see if I'm spelling them correctly. Like it's so much work. So get the QR code so that people can just scan it with their phone, type in their information, and then you don't have to do anything. Even if you're doing everything manually and you don't have something like a MailChimp provider, you can link it to a Google form and people can still type in that Google form. And then you can just copy and paste. That's a million times easier than handwriting all of this stuff out anyways. However, you may occasionally be at an expo where there is no Wi-Fi or the cell service is terrible. And then what do? I would still recommend having some way for people to physically write things out, even if it's not ideal. Even if you can't read every single email, because that's still better than collecting none at all. So I have little pads with all of the same information on that little white pad that's on the form that the QR code takes them to. They're exactly the same, and I just have people fill that out if their phones aren't working, if their battery's dead, if there's no Wi-Fi, but at least I can still collect the leads. Although I very much push people towards the QR code. I also recommend wearing something that is either branded or very eye-catching. I have a hot pink suit that I like to wear. I have a glitter suit that I like to wear. And if I'm not wearing one of those two things, I'm probably wearing a branded t-shirt with, like, I have earrings that have little naked ladies on them that are very pretty and cute. I like to wear those. Just something that's different, that's very eye-catching, that gets people kind of interested in who you are, because it's just more interesting than a lot of the other vendors that might be there. So wear something a little outside of your comfort zone because it will help people remember you. Oh, that was the girl in the hot pink suit. Oh, that was the girl with the naked lady earrings. I want to be remembered, and what I'm wearing helps me do that. Also, maybe this should have been my previous point to follow up on the whole QR code thing. Have automation set up so that you do not need to think about what you are sending people when they've entered your giveaway, which is why having like an email service like a MailChimp or I don't know, like a 17 Hats or something like that is so important. You need some kind of CRM where people sign up, they become a hot lead, and you just have something that automatically sends to them. So I automatically send an email right after they sign up saying, thanks so much for signing up. I'll announce the winner tomorrow. And then there's an email that automatically goes out the next day saying who won and offering an additional promotion. Like, okay, you didn't win, but like I have something else that's really cool for you. And then if they don't open that email, they get the exact same email sent again, being like, hey, did you miss this? Like, I have something for you, something special for you. And you can make that email sequence as long or as short as you want. If you want to touch base with people once a week for a month or once a month for a year, You do you. You know your industry better than I do. But having those automated touch points, so important because you are not going to remember to follow up with these people otherwise. You got enough on your plate. So make everything automated. The only thing I had to do after I came home from my wedding expo was add like 12 people who had filled out the paper version. I just had to add them into my sequence, and then I had to pick a winner and type that into the sequence, and that was all I had to do. Everything else was automated. Also, try to get people's phone numbers if you can and follow up with them via text. I do find that more people respond to text messages than they do emails. I get it. I get a ton of emails as well. And I certainly do not open all of them. So if you can, text people, and there are services that will let you do this. You can also create like a Google Voice number and text people that way, although don't make it spammy. If you copy and paste the same message to every single person who gave you their phone number, Google Voice, for example, will flag that as spam. And we don't want to be doing that. We don't want to be spammy businesses. So, for example, on my little form, I ask people, like, are you interested in more information? And if they hit yes, then I will send them a text with more information. If they hit no, I'm just here for the free stuff, then I'm less likely to send them a text. They still get the email, but I'm not going to reach out to them via text because they let me know that they're not as interested. And then last but not least, and I think this might be the most important one, and the mistake that I have made many times when I first started going to wedding expos, do not assume that every single couple or every single bride who walks by is straight. There are plenty of LGBTQIA couples coming to these events as well, and we are not going to assume that every single person who comes to our booth is marrying, if they're a woman, that they're marrying a man, because that is just not the case. I will say, I've done a lot of wedding expos. I don't run into a ton of grooms who are there by themselves, but I do run into a lot of brides. And there's a chunk of those brides who are not marrying a man. So don't make assumptions and just try to be as inclusive as possible. We're going to use the words like partner, or like tell me about your fiance, or tell me about the person that you're marrying. And then you can figure out if they're straight or gay or what have you and go from there. But I want it to feel like I want anybody who stops by my table to know that all bodies are welcome in my space. And I'm not going to assume every single person who comes by my table is straight. That was a bias that I had when I first started out. It's a bias that I think I'm still working on just as a straight person myself. And we can do better. I know we can do better. So those are going to be my tips for trying out a wedding expo. And if you have done wedding expos before, let me know in the comments what tips or tricks you have, or maybe mistakes that you made and learned from. I myself would still love to hear them because I'm always learning and trying to figure out ways to make my booths better. And maybe we can help out some people who have never, ever done any wedding expos before with your comments. So let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not. I am always sharing education about boudoir or self-love or photography. And I want as many people to get their hands on this helpful info as possible. So make sure you subscribe and like this video, please, and thank you. And stay tuned for the next one. We'll talk again soon. Bye.